All right, Big Man, today is Thursday. It is November 3rd. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Before we get into today's episode, I do want to talk about our friends at ChevyDriveChicago.com. That's right, because now is the perfect time to make sure your ride is running right. Get all your service needs done at your Chevy dealer today. That's your oil change, your brakes checked, whatever you need, your tires rotated. You want to make sure you're going to someone who's reputable and someone who will do a great job, and that's Chevy. It's also time to make sure you customize your brand new ride, and your local Chevy dealer can do just that. Just go to ChevyDriveChicago.com to find your local dealer and place an order for your brand new custom Chevy today. One more time, just go to ChevyDriveChicago.com to find your local dealer and place an order for your brand new custom Chevy today. It's very easy. You just enter wherever you're from, and you will be within miles of your local Chevy dealer. I promise you that. Get that new Blazer, get that new Silverado, get that new Colorado, whatever it is. Just make sure you're driving Chevy. And ChevyDriveChicago.com is definitely the way to go if you're looking for service or if you're looking for a brand new ride. Make sure you check that out, ChevyDriveChicago.com. Also, if you're looking to go to a game, if you're looking to go to a concert or a show or an event, make sure you're checking out the Game Time app. It is the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. It's created by fans for fans. Game Time is a ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. If you haven't given Game Time a shot yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. You guys are going to love this app. We've had tons of Barstool fans using it, hitting us up on social media about the great deals they're getting, and it's really the place to go. The Blackhawks are here, the Bulls, still a ton of Bears games here, Justin Fields, Chase Claypool. A lot of good things going on here in Chicago, so go check that out. Stand-up comedy, whatever it may be, just download that Game Time app, go to the account tabs, create a login, and redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time, last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Check out that Game Time app, folks. Make sure you're using them, and you get a nice $20 off for your first purchase. Okay, today's episode, we are bringing back an old friend. A lot of people have been asking where she is, and she's back today. True Crime Alley, how are you? Welcome back.
Thank you. Back and better than ever.
Back and better than ever. How are you?
Surprise.
How you been?
Never better. Missed you guys. It's been lonely. I've been getting a lot of messages.
A lot of messages saying, "Where's True Crime Alley? What happened?
Yeah, what'd you do?
What happened?"
So Eddie gave me the boot.
Oh, welcome back. I'm happy to see you. You got a nice new rock on your finger. Things are going well. That thing looks nice.
Thank you.
That thing looks nice. But yeah, I said you'd be popping in from time to time. We'll be doing these episodes. Obviously, Fridays are no longer here on the show, but True Crime on a Thursday can certainly be a thing.
True Crime Thursday.
So True Crime Thursday is what it's going to be. So, Allie, you're here. There is a story that's kind of sweeping the nation as far as what I see. I don't know what a lot of people who's in the loop and who's not, but this is something that I know a lot of people have been following, though.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Delphi murders from Delphi, Indiana, which is close enough to Chicago. It's a state over. And it's a terrible story, which we're going to get into. And it's kind of one of those things where it has a little bit of everything that has made it kind of this story that has made it gain so much media coverage, I would say, right?
Yeah, it did from the beginning. It was huge in the media from day one. And it's actually one that has kind of more or less stayed in the media pretty well, especially now that there's, updates and there's developments in the case. It's kind of gotten that boom again. So it never, totally fell off. And I know that Delphi is not, it's a very small town, so it, completely overtook the town as well. So they've got a lot of backup behind them, which is probably why it stayed relevant in the media. I know you were familiar with this case. It was in 2017, so it didn't happen that long ago. It's kind of crazy to say, I know we've talked about a bunch of cases that are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, and there's no developments at all. 5.5 years, and now we've got some development in the case. As messed up as it is to say, is that it's good to see that they kind of got right to it, and there's now this development. Yes, it's been 5 years, which is absolutely way too long for anything, but we've also seen cases where it goes on for decades with no information at all.
Yeah.
And this case actually had so many law enforcement agencies behind it of, state police, FBI, local police, multiple agencies. So multiple resources and agencies working together, which is also not always the case.
We've learned that many times in the show.
Yeah. Yeah. So they've been actually from the get-go, they brought in additional jurisdiction and agencies. So we like to see that because obviously now we've got some development.
Yeah, we do have some development, obviously, and we'll get into all that. And it was kind of the perfect time to kind of bring up this case. So with that, we could kind of lead us off. It will be kind of more conversational because I've been kind of deep into the Reddit rabbit hole with this, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about it as well. But you could kind of set the stage here for us, Allie, about where this very, very tragic event took place 5 years ago.
Yeah, so this took place in February of 2017 in Delphi, Indiana. And two friends, Abigail Williams and Liberty German, Abby and Libby, they actually had the day off of school. So they had what was called like a built-in snow day. I don't know if does Illinois have built-in snow days at all? I don't think so.
What exactly does that mean?
It's basically where like, if you have, it's these days that are built in, we're like, okay, if the weather, because we know obviously Midwest weather can do anything. So it's kind of those days like, all right, if we need a snow day, we can use that day. Or if we don't, then we're just going to have that day off. Okay. So it's kind of those like built in instead of tacking on extra days.
We didn't have them, but I'm sure someone in Illinois does.
Yeah. So they had that, but it was actually like weirdly warm, kind of like it is today, where it was like February, but it was warm, and they wanted to go outside and go on a hike. The two were dropped off, and keep in mind they're 13 and 14 years old, so they're just kind of at that age where like they can go do stuff. They're old enough to like start going to do stuff by themselves, but not, they can't drive. Like they're kind of just starting to test those waters, right? Of like, can we go to the mall by ourselves, or can we, have a little bit of freedom, and that was fine. So the two were dropped off on Monon High Bridge by Libby's older sister, and that was around 1 p.m.-ish, and they agreed to meet back at that spot that they got to be picked up later on the afternoon. So just for like a couple hours, they were going to go on this, and I say hike, but keep in mind this is like Indiana, so it wasn't like terrain. It was just more like a walking trail.
Yeah, it was a scenic little...
Yeah, exactly. So... They headed out on their walk. They said, all right, we'll meet back here in a few hours. Libby's dad was going to pick them up, and he was like, I'll give you guys a call when I'm on my way. So around 2 p.m., Libby posted on her Snapchat a picture of Abby walking across this bridge. And I know you've seen the picture of the bridge, Monon High Bridge. Kind of one of those like candid walking picture that like any teenager would, right? But she posted it, so we had a timestamp. That was around 2 p.m. A little after 2 p.m. Libby's dad then tried calling around 3:15ish to say, hey, like I'm on my way, I'll be there soon, but he didn't get an answer. So then he gets there and he tries calling again, say, hey, I'm here to pick you guys up, like where are you? Again, does not get an answer. So he starts to get worried, and he knows that they know where and when they're supposed to be picked up. He knows that they have their phones, so he shouldn't have any trouble really getting a hold of them. So after not answering his couple of phone calls, he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna just look around for them. And he's starting to get a little worried. So he starts to look around, and he cannot find them anywhere. And this is where he kind of starts to think, okay, something is not right here. Like if I should be able to, again, it's not like we're in the mountains and there's a bunch of terrain. Like, yes, we're outside and we're kind of in the woods, but I should be able to see them if they were here and they're not where they're supposed to be and I can't get a hold of them. So he calls a couple other family members out to come search and help him. And they search for in total, about 3 hours. At that point, so we're at about 5:30ish now, 2-3 hours is how long they're searching Libby's dad and a couple other family members, and they're really worried at this point. They're saying, okay.
And people should know Delphi is a town of 3,000 people.
So small.
It's very small.
Super small. And with that, I mean, they had the wherewithal to say, hey, they didn't think about foul play at first. Their thought process was more so like maybe one of them got hurt because they are so, close, and they're the only people, like, they came out here on their own, like they're staying with each other and just waiting for somebody to find them because they can't, for whatever reason, get help. Around 5:30 is when they contact the police and they report them missing. And again, luckily, like, a lot of things went right in this case, meaning the police got right on it and started searching for them, which again, we don't always see. Sometimes you get, you have to wait 42 hours or 48 hours or 24 hours, or, they're just a runaway and silly things like that. The police took it seriously from the get-go and immediately started searching. However, they didn't find anything, and around midnight they called off the search because it was just, it was too dark, and they said, all right, let's pick this up tomorrow morning. We'll get more of our resources out here, and we'll take a look around. Again, initially foul play was not being considered, but that didn't, that changed pretty quickly the next day, because the next morning the authorities show up. They've got canine units, they got dive teams. They immediately brought in the FBI. And this is a minor's case, so the FBI has, jurisdiction to be brought in immediately. And so they show up to the search, and they, everybody's out searching, including the families, including the police and the FBI, like everybody's. And I say dive teams because there is a river or a creek that runs like parallel to the bridge. So they, are searching. It's called Deer Creek, and they are searching that as well. Around noon, the two girls, somebody came upon the two girls' body, and they were found on the edge of that creek, on Deer Creek. Now, both girls were deceased, and it's been hard because it kind of drops off here, right? We don't know what their cause or manner of death was, because when they did the autopsy, they did not release those pieces of information. It was hard for them to kind of determine that time of death, of how long they had been there, because keep in mind, they were searching the day before. And kind of a reference to create that picture in your head is we've got, the High Bridge, and then Deer Creek is about, depending on what source you look at, 0.5 miles to 3/4 of a mile from the bridge, and it runs parallel. So definitely walkable, a couple minute walk. You can probably maybe even see it from the bridge, but the bridge does not run over the river. It kind of runs parallel to it. So these girls were found, again, about 0.5 miles from the bridge on this creek. And, kind of one of the immediate questions was, have they been here this whole time? Or because we stopped the search around midnight, did we already search this area and just not come about them? Have they been here the whole time? Or between the time we stopped and we started this morning, were they placed here? Those answers have not come out at all yet. Those are still, people have speculated, back and forth about it, but it's definitely one of the things that you have to think to, okay, yeah, that spot where they were found is pretty close to where that bridge was. If they were searching for, Libby's dad started searching around, call it 3:30, 4 o'clock, and all of the searching ended around midnight. You would think they hopefully covered that much ground, but again, you don't know because it was dark. This is also February. Think about when it gets dark in February, like 4:30, 5 o'clock?
Very early.
So they were searching in the dark for a long time too. Now, also thinking about this timeline is between the time that that Snapchat was posted around a little after 2 p.m. to when Libby's dad started searching was, maybe an hour. And by time the police were called and began their search, that was maybe like between 2 and 3.5 hours time frame. So for somebody to do something and for these girls to end up dead, you don't know if that was, okay, were they taken and something, they were killed and then brought back and they were staged, or did something really happen in that really short period of time? Because that's a very short period of time for that to happen, especially when
What was the beginning and end? How long? Sorry, again.
So the Snapchat was posted at 2, and the police search began around like 5:30ish. Okay. And keep in mind, Libby's dad and the family members were searching prior to that as well. So there was feet on the ground, and they were hunting for the girls. So the likelihood that somebody could be out there just in broad daylight doing something or moving bodies or whatnot is less possible, I should say. Police a couple days later, 2 days later, they actually released this photo. It's pretty grainy, of a man walking on this bridge, the bridge that the girls were on and the bridge that the Snapchat picture was posted on.
The next day?
2 days later.
2 days later.
Yep. Well, 2 days after they went missing, a day after they were found. Police released this photo and said, hey, we're looking for this man. And initially they just said, like, basically they were saying like, hey, we just want to talk. Like, we just want to see, we're not accusing you of anything. We just want to see if you saw anything or if you know anything, if you crossed paths with them, whatever. Obviously that did not last long. This man quickly became the suspect in the case because of that video clip. And they also released a video clip of him, but they only released maybe 5 seconds of it. And did you remember? Did you watch the video clip?
I did.
And it was that guy, the same guy walking on the bridge, and you can hear him because they released the audio, and he says, down the hill. And police were hoping that somebody could recognize his voice and say, oh, that sounds like yada yada, submit a tip. So that's what they asked from the public. Hey, if you recognize this blurry picture, it could maybe look like somebody, and you kind of recognize the voice, like, just give us any information you have. The thing is, which we don't know to this day, is what else is on that video. Because that video is actually 43 seconds long. So there's a lot more to it, whether it's just, jumbling around and we can't really hear anything, or whether it's something that police are investigating and is actually evidence. They're keeping it very close to the chest because they have not released it. They've only released that part that says down the hill. And it kind of quickly became also noted that, okay, where did this video come from? Did they just happen to be recording at the time, or why do we have a video of this? And the thought process behind that was that Libby, who, was posting on Snapchat and she had her things, this came from Libby's phone. She was smart enough in that moment to know something is not right. They were in trouble. And she kind of had that thought process while that was either going on, or she was having this weird feeling, hey, I'm going to record this. I'm going to document this. I'm going to get some evidence so that if somebody does find my phone, they have this to work off of, or they can come and find us. Whatnot. So really, again, these girls are 13 and 14 years old. Like, for a 14-year-old to be thinking this is extremely smart.
Yeah. And that's why, and that's essentially why this case really gained so much media attention, I think.
Yeah.
Is because not only do you have, obviously you have 2 minors who go missing, but you have this Snapchat footage of this guy walking this bridge. He's wearing like the scally cap, and there's this audio, guys, go down the hill.
Yeah.
And it's from their phone.
Yeah.
So it's like, naturally, people like to turn into their own, theories and their own detectives, and like to help out, actually, too. They like to actually try to help people, bring justice to this fucking murderer, or whoever this person is, not, whoever was involved, and kind of piece the clues together. So that's kind of how all the interest was drawn. So this was a big part of why the Delphi murders picked up steam.
Yeah. And it's, there's not a lot of times, right? You get evidence from every crime scene, but you don't always, very rarely, I would say, get this type of evidence.
No.
Like, hey, literally, here is this guy on a silver platter, and whatever else is in that 43-second video, but the tricky part is they can't identify who that man is.
Yeah. Because it's insanely eerie. It's off her phone.
Yeah.
And it's on this bridge, and this guy just has his hands in his pockets, and he's like, I don't know. It's hard to watch, and we could splice the video in here for the people who are watching on YouTube, and you'll see what we mean. And it's very eerie. That's
It's eerie because it's so casual.
It's so casual, and you're right. The wherewithal for her to take that video and to kind of have that moment to put a person of interest and to kind of put this person in the spot was next level. So
honestly, it really was. And it, I say this man hasn't 100% been identified, but lots and lots and lots of tips have poured in over the years of, hey, this kind of sounds like this guy, or hey, this kind of looks a little bit like this guy. But just by tips alone, police have not been able to solely identify this guy. There were 2 different sketches released over the years, which, when you now look at them, have you seen them?
I've seen one of them.
Okay.
And
I personally, in my opinion, I see the idea behind sketches, and I'm sure that they do work sometimes, but 9 times out of 10, when I look at a sketch versus, a suspect or somebody that they take into custody, I very rarely see the resemblance. That is definitely the case here.
Yeah.
Both of the sketches look, in my opinion, somebody may have a different opinion, but look nothing like, people they've brought into custody. Because there's been several suspects, or yes. I shouldn't say suspects, like persons of interest that they've looked into. Yeah. Now,
or people tied to the case. Maybe.
Yeah. People that they've tied. And we know that they listed the number 1 suspect is the man in the photo. We just haven't identified who this man in the photo is. There's also been mention of DNA at the scene. And now it's a little bit of a wishy-washy mention of DNA though. So Libby's grandmother say, hey, yeah, they said they had DNA, and they might. But the way that it was phrased originally by the authority was, they said, and I quote, "At every crime scene, you'll find DNA, but we are still working on identifying what that is." So it could have been the girl's DNA, right? We don't know that it's like an unidentified person. We don't know that it's a suspect's DNA. We just know that they have DNA of some kind. Now, the police also made it known, and they were pretty bold about it, to say, hey, we think that Abby and Libby's killer is a member of the community. So he's a member of Delphi and is hiding in plain sight. And they've said, made comments of, we will find you. Like, it's not, they've been very bold about it, and very vocal about it. And so they have from day one believed that this is somebody that, again, is hiding in plain sight, which is interesting when we get into who they've looked into. Mm-hmm. Now, they've looked into three main things that stand out. The last one being obviously the kind of updates that took place this last week. The first guy, which have you heard of, the guy that they looked into in March, so not that long after at all, literally a month after, the FBI got a search warrant for Ronald Logan. Have you heard about?
I did not hear about this one, no.
So Ronald Logan was a Delphi resident, and his property was about 1,400 feet from where the girl's body was found. It was kind of just up the embankment, if you will. So his property is right there. And this one to me was a super interesting person that they were looking to. Again, he was never named an official suspect, but a person of interest that they looked into because, again, he's living right there. And the FBI got the search warrant on the basis of they believed that there was clothing missing. There were pieces of clothing missing from when they found the girls. And so they thought, okay, the killer took a souvenir. We need to find that. And then they also initially stated that they thought the bodies were staged as well. So that kind of goes back to how we were talking about You know how they ended the search and picked it up the next morning of like, have they been here this whole time? Were they taken to another location, killed there, and then their bodies were staged here? All of those questions. So they got a search warrant for his house. And they did note that there were no visible signs of a struggle or a fight, but they did recover fibers and unidentified hairs at the scene. So that's also why they wanted to partially get this warrant to go and search his house. Now, the FBI did note that Ronald Logan was in good physical condition, meaning making that statement saying, hey, these people or this person is physically able to, one, get these bodies down to the creek, get himself back up, and take over 2 girls and murder them. So they noted, hey, he's in good physical condition. They made a statement that said his voice is not inconsistent with the recording, to which I was like, okay, that doesn't really give us a lot. It's not inconsistent. Okay, well, so it's kind of like saying, hey, this maybe potentially could be his voice, but we don't really know. They did interview, and this is where I was like, holy moly. The FBI interviewed a member of Logan's family who stated that Ronald Logan called them the morning of the February 14th, the morning the bodies were found, and asked that family member to lie about where Ronald Logan was that previous afternoon. Now, keep in mind, he called this family member about asking him to kind of create a fake alibi for him before the bodies were even found. So he was saying, hey, can you lie about where I was yesterday afternoon? And then it came out, oh, these 2 bodies have been found 1,400 feet from my property, blah, blah, blah. He said, can you say with that we drove around 2 p.m., we drove to this aquarium store about 30 minutes away. And so he had timing and everything down, which that's super sketchy.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Even to line up the timeline like that is, to me, that's pretty damning. Now, when the FBI talked to Ronald Logan, they said his statements were proven to be factually false. So obviously his alibi was false. They found like a receipt from the store, and his checkout wasn't until like way later in the day. And they did say that, so his statements were proven to be factually false, and that he was intentionally designed to deceive by making the statements that he made. So he was trying to deceive them. Now, another relative also of Ronald's also stated that the photo did look like him. Again, it's grainy, so they can't exactly say it was him, but that there was some resemblance there. A couple other things over that. A couple exes actually came forward of his and said that he was physically abusive, he had threatened to kill them, and he had made the statement, like, no one would ever find your body. So he was also on parole because he's had his house searched before. So he just had a rap sheet already prior. And we know he was violent. We know he was abusive. 15 of the tips that came in were actually found to be connected to Ronald Logan as well. So whether those were media or had to do with the case or not, at least 15 of the tips were connected to him. The last thing was they searched or got his phone records, and text messages that were sent in and out of his phone were pinged to be proven. His location was stated to be in the proximity of where the bodies were found. Keep in mind his property is there. In the proximity of where his bodies were found, but likely outside of the home. Super sketch. Mm-hmm. So he was right there, but he wasn't in his home. What was he doing? Now, I didn't get a timestamp on those, so that would be also interesting to say, okay, when those text messages were coming in, like, was he doing yard work? Was he sitting in his driveway working on his car, or was he down by the creek? And what time was this, right? Because if it was at 2 a.m, that's very different from than if it was at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So all in all, the FBI did get permission to search his home, and they did find, a bunch of firearms and a lot of stuff, but they never stated, even if they never stated that, hey, we found these missing clothing, like a souvenir taken or anything linked to the fibers that they found, yada, yada. And Ronald Logan actually died in 2020. So he was never officially named a suspect. That is kind of where his story ends. So it didn't necessarily say like, hey, we 100% ruled him out, but they obviously kept looking in different avenues because they've been still going at this investigation since then. And I know you were pretty familiar with the other person that they looked into.
Yep.
With like the, what do you call it? What do you call the fake?
He had a fake online alias.
Yeah.
Yes, he had an online alias, which was like a weird twist to the case because the second person came forward. And this was like a month or two ago?
December of 2021.
December of 2021.
So not that long ago.
So not that long ago. No. So sorry. So not specifically right, but this guy with an online alias they arrested. So it's like, oh wow, like they're coming closer. And it turns out, and correct me if I'm getting anything wrong here, because you looked into this deeper than I did, but this guy who went by this online alias, Anthony Schatz, was chatting with one of the girls, and he was pretending to be a younger boy. So this guy was a pedophile, and he was trying to meet up with these young girls. So naturally, he becomes a suspect for being a fucking creep.
Yep.
So they take him into custody, and now everyone is pointing the microscope at him. Right out of the gate, if you look at the mugshot of the guy, does not fit the bill of the bridge guy whatsoever. Yeah. He doesn't look like him.
Not really.
No, he looks much bigger.
Or the sketches.
Really anything.
Yeah.
And not much, at least from what I found, was given besides that he was speaking with the girls and they were arranging a meetup.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think the most kind of damning thing about this guy, his name is Keegan Klein, was that he was the last person. So he was speaking to Libby, and he was the last person to be in contact with her, or the last known person to be in contact with her prior to them being murdered. So initially when they found out, they're like, oh, well, this must be the guy.
It sounds like a slam dunk. Like,
right.
You have a guy who's going by this fake alias, who's a pedophile, or who has pedophile motives. Maybe I don't know. All alleged. I don't know exactly how the court process. He was charged.
He's been charged with like 30 counts of child exploitation.
So then I didn't know how the processing was going down. So, so then naturally they're like, all right, this guy has to have something to do with it.
Yeah. It's kind of like a weird, in my opinion, just a very weird like coincidence that was going on, because that could also be a very dangerous situation, right? And something very well could have happened. But I personally don't believe that it was him, and I think the police have kind of moved on from it because you haven't really heard
anything about him. It was so strange though, because it's been one of those things in this case where, like I said, the media frenzy took off as soon as it really took off as soon as the bridge guy video dropped and you had the audio. And then, like you said, you bring up the Logan suspicion, and then it got kind of quiet.
Yeah.
And then they arrest this Anthony Schatz guy. It's like, oh my gosh, like this guy was talking, he was saying he was this younger boy, and they were talking to this guy. He has to be involved. It was this guy. It was this guy. It was
super
guy.
sketchy.
Nothing comes of it.
Yeah.
Nothing comes of it until door number 3 comes out last week. Yeah. And this is what provided this inspiration for this episode, where it sounds like we don't know for sure because not much has broke, unfortunately or fortunately, but it sounds like the guy is under custody.
Yes. I think this one seems to feel a little stickier than the other ones. So yes, last week, Richard Allen, 50 years old, resident of Delphi, Indiana, he was taken into custody under the charges of the murders of the 2 girls. Now, he was initially actually taken to the county jail, but very quickly was moved to the state facility for safety purposes. To which I'm like, LOL, we're trying to protect his safety, but he clearly, but at the same time, it's like, yes, if he were in danger, then that could, be harmful. Like a whole case going on and him getting charged. So anyways, he was moved to a state facility. It was said that he was initially like not cooperating, but a judge signed off to seal the charging documents, which people are like all up in arms about. Not surprising, since they've kept so much of the information from this case from day one. They have not shared it with the public, and that obviously creates like so much suspicion and so much wonder and a lot of questions as to why. But a judge did sign off to seal these charging documents, which are, mind you, they are public documents. These are documents that need to be filed publicly and the public can have access to. There's certain timelines where, within 24 hours, this should be uploaded into the system. Like, people can see these things on the regular. Mm-hmm. So the fact that a judge signed off to keep these sealed is very much an outlier. I don't know. I think it was one of those things where the authorities were kind of like, all right, let's see how long we can keep these sealed and we can keep it close to the chest, because this is such a big media case. Mm-hmm. And we know that as soon as the public and the media have information, they're going to run with it. Yeah. And a lot of things happen when that takes place. So I don't know if it's because there's like certain details that they do not want getting out, or if it's because they just want to keep this case cut and dry and as clean as possible.
Yeah, and I say unfortunately because we can't say like for certain, like, hey, this sounds like they got the guy, but I say fortunately because all that matters is that it sounds like they do.
Yeah, that an arrest was made and charges were put out there.
And if you watch the press conference, they said a few key things that makes me believe like there are reasons to believe that. Mm-hmm. Like they mentioned, they shouted out the forensic team. Mm-hmm. So we don't know how they
have to have something.
Yes. We don't know what they have, but they have to have something. If they shouted the forensic, and we're speculating.
Right.
So please take that. We are speculating, mm-hmm. which, sorry, but like, we're just going off. Yeah. Yes, it was our opinions, but we're just going off the press conference. They thanked the forensic team, and they announced, the closure for the families, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And that's really all that matters here. That's fucking it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So,
and it's one thing that caught my attention though in the press conference was they also stated a line that kind of just made me go like, huh. And maybe this is because they've looked into several other people in the past and it hasn't panned out. But they made a statement of like, if anybody else, is out there, or if anyone else was involved, like, we'll find them. And I thought that was very, like, it just kind of made me do a double take and be like, so are you looking for another person?
It makes me wonder if he had anything to do with Klein, the Anthony Schatz guy.
Maybe.
That's what makes me wonder, like, if he gave any information on him. Like, maybe this was a ring. And like I said, I'm speculating. Like, I know people really frown upon that when it comes to this kind of stuff, because it is people's lives and it is very serious. Mm-hmm. And I'm not doing that, like, for, I'm not trying to, there's no reason in particular. I'm just trying to kind of make sense of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it could be, but I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I have no insight or anything like that. But
the press conference was informative, but very uninformative as well. To say like, hey, we made this arrest. This is who it is, but we can't share any, and we are choosing not to share any other details with you at this time.
Which maybe that's for the best for the girls and their families. Like maybe it's for the best.
They're doing it for a reason. Yes. And so there's got to be a pretty significant reason.
I respect completely.
So the documents that were actually sealed, under the charging documents, if you will, obviously the one charging documents would have like the charge information on there, but it would also have the probable cause, an affidavit which states probable cause, and that's where you would get a lot of the details into why the arrest was made or how it came to be made, why they are choosing him specifically, and what probable cause they have to make this arrest. That obviously is the information that they are trying to keep close to the chest. We don't know what they have because, again, we still don't even know manner or cause of death. We don't know
anything.
Literally anything. Yet this case has been like huge in the public. So Alan was charged with the murder of the 2 girls. And just one thing that just I thought was so sickening. Did you hear about the CVS photos?
Vaguely.
So Libby's grandmother shared, again, this guy, Richard Allen, he was a member of Delphi. He was a resident of Delphi. And
he was a farm tech, right? At CVS or something like that?
Yeah, he worked at CVS. Now, back in 2017, when the girls were murdered, he helped process photos for the family at CVS. They were getting photos printed. He helped the family process them and was like, hey, I'm not going to charge you for these because they're for the funeral. He was the one that did that. And all along, he comes back that he was the one being arrested and charged with it. Like, isn't that sick?
Yeah, no, it's very sick, and that's and like I've said, there's going to be more to come out. So make sure you go. You know, but it's very sick. It is.
Yeah. So
and I think it's November 22nd. I read where we're going to find out if they're going to release the documents or not.
Yeah, I think they only have a certain amount of time as to how long they can keep them sealed for, especially if they're going to move forward in preliminary hearings or a trial or whatever.
Because I have heard, and like I'm hesitant right now to share theories that I have read or heard because there are it is
so
people's
many
lives.
out there.
Exactly, because there was a theory that like he jumped in front of it and he might have given those descriptions, and that's why they didn't fit so much with the sketches. I saw that, but I don't, because who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. So now if you go look at a picture of him, Richard Allen, and you look at the 2 sketches, all 3 of them look like 3 different humans.
Yeah.
In my opinion, right? Somebody else may see something differently. One of them's like a way younger version. One of just no really resemblance at all. And again, you can't go based off of a sketch. They're not accurate. I don't want to say not accurate, but they're really, really hard to go off, right? Because if I say, oh, he had brown eyes and long hair, that could mean something different to you. That could mean something different to the person sketching. So it doesn't surprise me that the sketches don't really resemble him, but I just, I saw them and I was like, woof, not even close, not even remotely close. But hopefully there'll be more details coming out soon, hopefully within the month. But it seems like police have kind of got a tight case in-house
I sure hope
to move forward with.
Because he does, and then you look at the video of the bridge guy, and you see that a lot more with him.
Yeah,
at least
now you can look at it and be like,
You do. But yeah, I think that's
it.
We'll see what kind of happens, but that's kind of the gist. I know, I saw it trending on Twitter, and I'm sure a lot of people who aren't following us closely, and there's so many podcasts that have dived into this and have been following along for the last 5 years. So those are have been super in depth. This is just 45 minutes just to kind of give people a gist of what's been going on. So kind of an abbreviated version. So hopefully it was easy to follow, and you guys are in the know of kind of what's going on. And yeah, obviously, as always with these, you feel terrible for the family, and go check out, the different news sources to keep updated. And it is an active investigation. Everything with Richard, Anthony Schatz, Klein, and Logan, I think it's all alleged to some degree. So I just want to put that out. This is all opinion based, a lot of it. So take a lot of it with a grain of salt here. So. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Allie. Welcome back.
Yeah. Thanks.
Welcome back. It's great to have you back. And, hope Libby and Abby's family are getting
it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, getting that closure. So thank you everybody for listening. That's it for today. That's it for this week. We'll be back on Monday. We will see you then.